I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of 1 Timothy chapter 1, so let's focus on verses 3 through 5. As I urged you when I went to Macedonia, remain in Ephesus, so that you may command certain people not to teach other doctrine or to pay attention to myths and endless genealogies. These promote empty speculations rather than God's plan, which operates by faith. Now, the goal of our instruction is love from a pure heart, a good conscience, and a sincere faith. Once again, that's 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 3 through 5. You know, there are a growing number of churches which have adopted a diminished view of calling. And that is to say, they don't believe that God cares what you do with your life as long as you're not pursuing sin. Now, I don't understand how that theology is supported biblically. When I read the Bible, the concept that I see being reinforced is the theology of calling. That is, God calls people personally to certain places to minister to certain people with a certain message for a certain amount of time. And if there were no calling, well then why would anyone want to suffer for the gospel? Why would you stay there while the line is collapsing, as they say in football? Well, we would simply avoid the uncomfortable, following the ministry path of least resistance. So why suffer if God doesn't care about the details of your life choices? You see, God beckons us. He calls us to a certain salvation from a certain hell. And He equips us with certain gifts and calls us to certain places to deliver certain messages to certain other people. You know, we labor with a certain hope that our work will be certainly completed by His Spirit. You see, calling compels us to go and to stay. Calling emboldens us to persevere during hardship. Calling ensures victory through the power of the Holy Spirit. And calling is not just for pastors. It encompasses all believers because we are all called. And God has specific plans for each one of us. Let's examine Timothy's calling. He was called to a certain place. That is, he was dispatched to Ephesus. He was called for a certain time frame. That is, he was told to stay there. And he was called to certain people. That is, the church leaders in Ephesus whom had strayed from Paul's teaching. And he had a certain message to deliver. Timothy was to command the church leaders to get back on track. And there was a certain hope attached. You see, with correct instruction applied over time, the congregation members would develop loving hearts and good consciences and a sincere faith. There is a story of a fashion designer notorious for mending their clothes backstage at the New York runway shows. And when asked why this lady didn't assign the task of mending to a junior designer, she smartly replied, "Because it's my name on the tag." God cares enough to call us into salvation and then into His service. We bear His name, and God cares about your choices. Why? Because His name is on your tag. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.